Oh, it's Kirby. I don't know why I've never really talked about Kirby before on this channel or done LPs of any of his games, because I love Kirby. Kirby's one of my favorite game franchises like ever. I've been playing Kirby since I could play video games, basically. So yeah, let's change that. This is Kirby's Dream Land for the Nintendo Game Boy. This came out in '92, developed by HAL Laboratory, which isn't owned by Nintendo, but pretty much all their games are for Nintendo. And Kirby was also created by Masahiro Sakurai, which most people probably know him a little bit better as the guy who created and directs all the Smash Bros. Games. And he's like slowly destroying his hands because he spends so much time personally playtesting all the games when he doesn't need to do that anymore, I think. I feel bad for him. I don't know, it seems like developing Smash Bros. Is like a personal hell for him that he cannot escape. But I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass. Excuse me, but I would never swear at Kirby. I'm sorry. Kirby, usually, is a really nice, just kind of chill, usually easy franchise of platformers. Kirby also has plenty of spin-off games, though. There's, like, Golf and Canvas Curse and all that stuff that maybe I'll get around to someday. I don't know. But yeah, Kirby only has a couple abilities in the first game. He can jump, he can suck in enemies and, like, blocks and some other objects and then spit them back out as projectiles. And he can float indefinitely. Like, although it's a platformer, Kirby games aren't really about falling into pits and dying. 'Cause Kirby can just float forever, generally. Some games he can't. But I was inspired to talk about Kirby because on some of Voidburger's streams recently, I've been talking about Kirby because a new game just came out very recently for the Nintendo Switch. And I was talking about Kirby lore. And everyone thought I was joking. Not. Like, there's a story to Kirby, man. Although we won't be seeing much of it in this game, because this is, you know, the first game. It's really basic. One of the major, like, gameplay mechanics that Kirby is known for isn't even in the first game. It wouldn't appear until the next game. And also you can just swallow enemies if you don't want to, like, spit them out. But yeah, Kirby has a lot of weird lore and story stuff that slowly builds up over the 27 or so games there are. And with each game, it seems to be getting a little more prevalent. Although it's still, like, a little, like, hidden or off to the sides. It's not, like, right in your face all the time. So Kirby's is like Dark Souls, is what I'm saying, right? Alright, the first boss. This is Whispy Woods. He appears in pretty much every single Kirby game, even the spin-offs. Even the Puyo Puyo Kirby game, Kirby's Avalanche for the Super Nintendo. One of your first opponents in the single player is Whispy Woods. He's real easy. You just gotta spit apples back at him, and avoid the little puffs of air. But yeah, Whispy Woods is a tradition in pretty much every Kirby game, and every Kirby game kind of gives him, like, a little twist to how he works each time. It's fun. Something else that's surprising about Kirby is even from the very first game, like, it nailed a lot of the things of what Kirby is, like... But a lot of the stuff in Kirby's Dreamland is stuff that's in every single game. The little victory dance and the little tune after you beat a boss or complete a major part of the game, yeah, still happens. Riding the warp stars to levels still happens. The guy who composed the music for this first game still does a lot of music for a lot of the Kirby games to this day. Oh, this is Lololo and La La La. They are from another HAL developed game for the MSX, I believe. They appear in Kirby games every once in a while. So, there aren't too many, like, power-ups or abilities you can get in this first game. Although, there is this item in the upper left here. It's Spicy Curry. It makes Kirby run a little faster, I guess. But also, you can just spit out fireballs for a little bit. This is an item that you can also find in the Smash Brothers series. Starting with Smash Brothers Brawl, I think, you can pick up Spicy Curry and yeah, whoever picks it up, they go crazy and start spitting fireballs from their mouth. Even a lot of the enemies that appear in this first game are, like, still around to this day. And the actual fight with Lololo and La La La. These characters also end up appearing in the anime, too, which I have never really seen much of. That came out in, like, the early 2000s in America on Fox Kids, but I was right around the age where I didn't care about Kirby as much. If it had been just a couple years earlier, when basically all I did was think about Kirby, Sonic, Mario, Mega Man, and Zelda, I would have been, like, losing my mind over there being a cartoon. This boss is also quite easy. Like, you can even suck up their blocks from behind if you're close enough. Kirby has a pretty decent range to sucking up blocks. Alright, so we're already in the third world, of which there are only 5. This game's quite short. But before we go on with the level, just want to show, if you pause the game for a while, you know, you just chill out and wait like 20 seconds or so, Kirby will start doing a little dance. Dance, Kirby, go. All right. Anyways. Yeah, I talked about Kirby. Oh, also, there's these bombs. They only appear a couple times, but if you're able to suck them up, spin them out before they blow up, yeah, they create a little explosion that travels across the screen to take out multiple enemies for you. I was talking about Kirby lore earlier. There is a story to this game. You would have to read it from the manual, though. You know, back in the early days when if a game even did have a story, it was just like on the back of the box or in the manual and not in the game itself, really. Also, here's a little microphone you can suck up. And yeah, Kirby screams into a microphone and blows everybody up on screen. But the story for this is that there is a villain named King Dedede who has stolen, like, all the food in Dreamland. And he also stole the warp stars, or the power stars. I forget what they call them in the original game. And those stars are also, like, used to produce food in Dreamland or something like that. But anyways, King Dedede took the food. Kirby's gonna get back the food. There you go. Partially part of the reason why I really wanted to do some Kirby stuff here is the later games do some real cool stuff that I really want to show off. I cannot capture 3DS games, and 3DS emulation is still a bit off from being, like, good enough for capture, at least with the Kirby game. I want an LP. But Kirby Planet Robobot is a really good Kirby game. Kirby pilots a mech. If you liked The Wonderful 101, there is some stuff on the scale of what happens in The Wonderful 101 in that game. It's rad. Ah, more curry. A cute thing, if I remember correctly, is that if you just ate some spicy curry, if you land in water, it immediately cancels the spicy curry power-up, because it cools them down. Aw. There's a couple one-ups in this game. Not too many, though, but again, you don't really need them in this game. It's because the game's pretty forgiving, and even if you do lose all your lives, you just start at the beginning of the stage you're currently on. It's not like it starts you all the way at the beginning of the game, which is nice, because there's no other way to, like, continue in this game. Like, you can't save in this game. It's just one and done playthroughs. With Kirby's Inception, with this first game... Oh, also, we got a Mint Leaf. Mint Leaf just lets you fly and just shoot infinite puffs of air, which we need to fight this boss that... This is probably the one boss where I actually get hit a decent amount of time. It's just the wiggly cannonballs always mess me up. And also him dashing into me does that as well. But with the Inception of Kirby, Kirby wasn't even originally supposed to be the character for this game. Kirby was temporary art put in until they figured out who they wanted the character to be, because, like, he's just round. He's really easy to draw, so whatever. But eventually, people working on the game liked him too much, and so they just kept him. And his original name was something like Poyo Poyo Poyo, or no, Popopo. His name was Popopo. But they eventually named him Kirby, because they had a little, like, list in the company. I think employees were allowed to, like, submit potential names for Kirby, but they eventually named him after John Kirby, I believe, who was one of Nintendo's lawyers, because Nintendo got caught in a lawsuit in the early 90s with Universal Studios, because Universal was claiming that Nintendo was infringing on their IP with King Kong, because Donkey Kong, you know, was kind of inspired by that stuff. Universal lost that case. Nintendo won. And they also, yeah, they just went with Kirby, because they also thought Kirby was a, like, uncute sounding name for somebody as cute as Kirby. But I grew up with Kirby being, like, the first thing I think of when I hear Kirby. Like, if I meet some guy who's got the name Kirby, it's like, oh, like the cute pink ball. So Kirby's just automatically a cute sounding name for me, I don't know. Also, you can damage stuff just by puffing out little bits of air when you're floating, which is the only way to damage some enemies, like those enemies I was shooting earlier, that blow up if either you don't take them out fast enough, or if you just bump into them. If you try to suck them up, they just get mad at you and chase you, and then blow up. Early on, Kirby was portrayed in in two different ways. Kirby is pink, right? In America, not originally. He was actually presented as, like, white. He was even white on his box art, and that was because for a while between Sakurai and Shigeru Miyamoto, they just couldn't decide what color Kirby should be. I believe Sakurai wanted him to be pink, and Miyamoto wanted him to be yellow. And then when they had to make, like, the box art from when this game came out in America, they just went with white because he was white on the Game Boy. And yeah, it took until the second game for Kirby to actually appear pink. And in fact, Kirby was... Oh, there's a Maxim Tomato, by the way. That's a full heal. The sodas heal, like, 2 chunks of your health bar. There were commercials for this game, both in America and Japan. And yeah, even in the commercial for America, Kirby was just white. And it made him kind of look like a ghost. I remember when I played this game, like, one of my friends lent it to me when I was, like, 6 or 7. He thought Kirby was a ghost. But little did he know, I'd already played some Kirby games. And I knew exactly what Kirby was. He's a Kirby. I don't know what Kirby is. In the anime, they say he's like a Star Warrior. The anime's a little different, like, plot-wise, I guess, from Kirby. From the Kirby games, I mean. He was, like, in a spaceship, and he was supposed to be in the spaceship for hundreds of years until he developed into a full Star Warrior, but his spaceship crashed too early and he came out as a baby or something. So he wasn't a fully formed Star Warrior, of which there were several in the show that were just characters from the games as well. Also, this is Kracko. He's also another recurring boss in the games. Earlier we fought him, like, without the cloud, and that is Kracko Jr., who also appears a lot in the games. Still pretty easy, though. Just gotta spit out the enemies back at him. Alright, so it's like the final stage already. Like I told you, this game's really quick. Like most Game Boy games were. I don't know if you knew this, but later Game Boy games were a little more fully featured and, like, longer and meatier because those cartridges that they came on had, like, more storage space on them, I believe. they could just make bigger games. Whereas really early Game Boy games like could barely fit anything on them. But still, this is a really impressive Game Boy game, because like, if you never played like original Game Boy stuff, if you're too young for that stuff or something, or you never just had one growing up, there were a lot of bad Game Boy games. And a lot of puzzle games, too. That was like the big thing. Puzzle games and like Tetris knockoffs. For like the first 3 years or something. Oof. And of course we got boss refights. That's an easy way to make a game longer. It extends the length from like 18 minutes to 23 minutes. There, done. Bye-bye, Whispy Woods. And I completely forgot, this boss room had this music playing. This is something I associate with the arena in later Kirby games, where that are essentially just boss rush rooms. I didn't actually, like, know it came from this far back until I replayed this, today. Yeah, there's also, like, really short single rooms before these bosses. Pretty easy, though. For some reason, you can't, like, enter the door until you touch the dancing Kirby. I don't really know what that's about, but alright. And even if you haven't played a Kirby game, you probably know about, like, the little joke about box art Kirby, where in Japan, Kirby always looks pretty nice and cute, and then when the game comes over to America, the box art is exactly the same, except they just put angry eyebrows over Kirby. And, like, people from Nintendo have, like, just straight up said, like, making Kirby look more badass makes him more appealing to the American, demographic. I mean, I get that. It works on me too, I think, especially when I was a kid. Part of the reason why I was so into Kirby growing up was just because he was, like, first it was like, okay, cute kids game, but then as the games kept going on, Kirby got a little more and more, like, badass. Kirby gets a sword, alright? He cuts stuff in half in later games. In later games, he, like, fights God or something. He doesn't fight God. He does fight a bunch of spooky, like, godlike beings in a whole bunch of the games. Which is part of the reason why I really like Kirby, because it's cute, and sometimes it does, like, really cool stuff in the later games, like, action-wise. But it's the kind of lore that kids can get real into, like, you know, my first lore video type stuff. It's like how so many people are into, like, Splatoon lore and stuff like that. And it's like, you can go to, you know, look up any final boss theme from any Kirby game on YouTube, and all the comments are from, like, little kids, like, talking about how, you know, epic this is and stuff like that. And it's adorable. Like, I love Kirby because of stuff like this. And, like, one of the other things that's great about Kirby is, like, even when you get, like, play one of, like, the worst Kirby games, you never go to such a low that's, like, awful to play. Even the worst Kirby games are still better than most games. If nothing else, like, they're still entertaining. Kirby has never had its Sonic 2006 moment, and I don't think he ever will, because, like, they've nailed down a formula with him so well. I do wish to see, like, a really ambitious Kirby game someday, just in, like, the form of, like, going fully 3D with Kirby. Like, you know, all of his games use 3D graphics now, but Kirby's never really explored the third dimension much, except for the little side game you can get in the 3DS, which kinda sorta counts, I guess, but I mean, like, you know, like a Mario 64 moment, but for Kirby. Also, here's King Dedede. He stole all the food. For some reason, he's got a wrestling ring in his own castle. This is probably one of the most, like, iconic, like, Kirby songs is King Dedede's theme, although in later games it gets expanded upon. It's just a short loop in the original game here. King Dedede's a penguin, I guess. He's one of my favorite characters to play as in Smash. He's great. What a good addition to Smash. Yeah, he's the toughest boss in the game, of course. He can also suck you up and spit you out. He tackles you. He's got a hammer. He'll jump and try to land on you. And yeah, you gotta kind of lure him, like wait for him to hit you with the hammer, because otherwise he'll follow you all the way to the edge of the screen, and you won't have any space to actually suck up the star from his hammer smashing into the ground. But overall, you know, not too tough. He has way more health than any other boss, though. But yeah, we're at the final boss already. Like I said, Dreamland's a very short game. Although, I could do a second video on this game if people want it. I guess just let me know in the comments. But we've beaten Dedede, and after you beat the game, there is a little code it gives you that'll let us do something else with the game that we'll see in a bit. That's Kirby's Dream Land. It's a cute little game. It still holds up as like a good little like 20-minute diversion. Although really, if you want to like experience this but also have it be a better game, play Kirby Superstar, because Kirby Superstar has a small portion of the game that's kind of like a abridged remake of this game. But we'll get to that eventually. Like, Kirby Superstar is still my favorite Kirby game, so of course I'm gonna LP that at some point. Thanks, Bubby. If you ever wondered why a lot of Japanese games, especially from like the 90s and like 80s, in their credits have a lot of people with weird like made-up names, I've heard, I don't know how true this is, but I've heard that some companies would have people make up names for the credits because they didn't want other companies to see the names of the actual people who worked on the game and then headhunt them and hire them to work on their game. They didn't want their talent stolen, quote-unquote. So, I mean, that might make sense, especially when earlier on, you know, finding programmers for games is probably a little more difficult. So yeah, after beating the game, it tells you a little code here. Pressing up A and select on the title screen starts a new adventure. It's the same game, but it's just a harder difficulty. And it's not just like everything does more damage or has more health. The enemy placements are different. There are new enemies and bosses. Some of the bosses have like completely new patterns to them. Like they're different fights. Like Kracko. Kracko's completely different. So yeah, if you would like to see more of this game, before I move on to another Kirby game later in the future, just let me know in the comments, and I'll go back and play the extra game mode, because it's actually kind of tough. But yeah, thanks for watching. I guess I'll do some more Kirby later on. Later.
Recently, we compared two superheroes, Dashing Super Guy and Kirby from Nintendo. In some ways, Kirby lost big. No big hair, no big muscles, no weapons, nothing. All Kirby's got is appetite. Kirby's Dream Land, the thrilling adventure game on Game Boy. Kirby munches, spits back, and floats, saving glorious Dreamland. He's Kirby, and he packs a mean bite. Kirby's Dream Land, only on Game Boy.
丸書いてお豆が2つおむすび1つあっという間に星のカビ何でも吸い込む星のカビ
吸い込みぶっつけ攻撃ぷかぷか空飛びの術かわいいやんちゃポーズ星のカービィゲームボーイで新発売